Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Matthew Olson. I'm the director of the Taylor Leadership Institute, and I am so glad that you were able to join us today for our first ever leadership lecture series. In a time where so many of us are working remotely and looking for ways to access the resources from the Taylor Leadership Institute and many of our amazing classes, we wanted to give you this opportunity to take a look at some of the resources we have available, but also reflect upon your own growth as leaders. So let's kick it off with one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Stephen Covey. Dr. Covey's work will be embedded through much of this presentation. One of the most paramount leaders and thinkers in terms of the study of leadership. And this is one of my favorite of all time. The idea that leadership is communicating to people their worth and potential so clearly that they come to see it in themselves. And it's interesting because so much of what we've been traditionally taught about leadership has been about a position or title or production or results, where this is around, communicating to people, making people feel valued, significant. Even the most, you know, um, up to date and recent thought leaders around leadership, whether it be the dynamic Tony Robbins to Eric Thomas, it's about others. I mean, leadership is about people. It's not just about things, and really making people see their worth and potential. To kick us off today, we're going to look at some goals that we're going to be and some activities that we're going to be going through. Um, and throughout this lecture series, we're going to hit a few areas that maybe many of you have seen before, and maybe needed a deeper dive in terms of the study of those things. And many of the opportunities to and topics we're going to be addressing today might be brand new for you. So so much of what we're doing has corresponding videos that you can take a look at online, whether it be videos from John Gordon and Sean Aker, to UNF's own Natalia Bannister and TED Talk speaker Drew Dudley, who was at UNF 2 years ago. And then we'll end with some ideas of how to create your own board of directors and help you not only succeed here at UNF, but further down the road in terms of your career and academic goals. Okay. So what we're going to do to get started is I always like to kick it off with the idea that building confidence, and the idea that before anyone can believe in you as a leader, you must first believe in yourself. This is one of my favorite quotes. The idea of how powerful we are, what an impact we can have, both negative and positive. And one of the things that I hope that you'll take from this presentation today is the idea of what influence you can have, and not waiting until after you graduate, not waiting till you have, your dream job, or one day I'll be able to be a leader. It's now, it's today. So our first icebreaker, our first activity, this is something I want you to do on your own to start, and then I'd love for you to reach out to connect to someone, especially now where you have a lot of time to, um, be on our own and reach out to people virtually. What I want you to take about 5 minutes to do is this is called the Success Analysis Protocol. So I'd like you to take a moment to think about a recent either academic or professional success you've had and write that down. Then another lifetime success. And think about something that was really profound for you, whether it be, graduating from college that no one thought you could graduate from, or achieving something in high school. Thinking about something you're really proud of, whether both in the areas of academic and professional success. So the first one was a recent one. What have you done recently? Second one is really, paramount. Like, this was so cool. 3 years ago, I did this, and it really changed my belief in myself. And then finally, the idea of personal success. What are you doing for yourself? What are you really proud of in terms of your family? Whether it be family, faith, fitness, whatever, something in terms of being good for yourself. being good to yourself. So many of us focus so much on, what's next and that next goal with the idea of what are you doing for you? And you'll see that in Covey's seventh habit, sharpening the saw is one of those key things. Okay, so take a few moments to do that. And one of the things that I'd love for you to do is make it a habit. Make it a habit of writing down when you have achieved something, whether it be completing, tasks, whether it be navigating these recent challenges we've had both locally and nationally. Really being your own best advocate and documenting the successes you've had. Quite often we've become accustomed to what you need to get better at. Oh, I need to lose these next 5 pounds. I need to get better at time management. All these things that we know we need to do, but one of the most effective strategies when it comes to your own leadership development is thinking about what you do really well, do more of it. And you're going to do better when you focus on what you're doing well and, expand upon that. So after you've done that success analysis protocol, really comes down to why are we meeting here today? Why are you listening to this? For some of my students who have to listen to this, it is, I'm not going to say it's part of your grade because I know you just love being a part of my classes and you wouldn't do it for, you'd listen to my lectures even if you weren't graded upon your performance, in my class. But it's one of these things that in any area of life, whatever career you plan on going into, leadership matters. And employers are looking for this. If you look at this slide, you'll see not only does leadership show up number one, but I'd attest that many of the top 5 skills in terms of whether it be communication skills, problem solving, ability to work on a team, so many of those are wrapped into leadership, even all the way back down to friendly, outgoing personality, organizational ability. All of those are really embedded within the study of leadership. And when you think of successful, impactful people in your life, I'd be willing to bet that those people had many of these same skills. Okay. So it's not just, hey, let me check off a box to make sure I'm taking a leadership class, or I went to a leadership workshop. It really can transform who you are as a person and who you are both professionally and academically. So let's kick this off with the idea of the study of leadership itself. And one of my favorite quotes, was actually a student at UNF that reminded me of the importance of this. The true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Sometimes we overthink leadership with whether it be 7 habits, 8 strategies, this best practice, lots of books and readings and all those different things. But ultimately, at the foundation of leadership is influence. And sometimes it can be positive, sometimes it can be negative. And what are you doing with your words and actions to help others really see their impact and potential? So in some of the foundational pieces, and we'll go over the history, some of the more historical studies and theories around leadership to start and give you a foundation. And one of the things that I hope that come from this is the idea that you may need to change how you lead depending on the situation. Okay, but there are many that believe leaders are born. Stodgel and the trait leadership folks, one of the earlier theories about leadership, thought that there are certain characteristics that made people, led to them being leaders, allowed them to say, okay, you had these traits of intelligence, self-confidence, determination, integrity. Okay, if you have those, you're a leader. So that is one theory. That is one foundational piece around leadership. And for me, I think there are definitely some characteristics that help propel people towards leadership. And I'll let you come to your own conclusions after reading some of the opportunity, some of the things that I'm going to share with you today. But for me, I think, yes, there's some people, whether they be the idea of great public speakers or having great confidence, I think it does help, but it's also not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee at all. It's almost like being, okay, taller people have a higher likelihood of being basketball players, okay, or volleyball players. But it's no guarantee. And some of the, the smallest people have been the most successful in areas. There are, MVPs and Hall of Famers in basketball that were 5'9", 5'10", and they all don't have to be the size of LeBron James to be successful. So just because you have a trait doesn't mean, you're either, in the fast lane for leadership role or not. It really comes down to your own understanding of how to lead and influence others. And to that point, let's take a look at, this is from one of our leadership dynamics textbook, embedded within the TLI leadership minor, the intro to leadership class, which is, about 1,000 students each year at UNF take this course. It's one of our most popular. So if you look at the idea of situational leadership, Hershey and Blanchard came up with this quite a few years ago. And if you look at this chart, I think it's really powerful to look at the idea of situational leadership is adapting your leadership style based on the situation. Okay, so whether it be low task, high relationship, the participating area. So that might be a setting where you really have to, let's say an employee or a teammate has gone through some trauma, something going on with their family or something like that. You're not going to, your focus is on really being there and supportive for them in terms of their time of need. You're not going to say, okay, I know you have a funeral today, or you have, a family issue, but get your work done, and then we'll talk about, supporting you. But it really comes down to building that relationship. Right now, what we're seeing a lot of is really, that high task, and with what's going on nationally with some of the health scares. On a global level, it's the idea of, I know, right now our relationship is we're aware of it, but what's most important is keeping you safe. So sometimes it might be just in the telling phase, like telling students you have to go home to be safe, telling employees you have to go home, okay, social distancing. So that idea of, it's really powerful. Do you have the ability and the awareness to change based on the situation? When I work with teams and businesses throughout the country around their own leadership development and how to get them better, I first do a diagnosis of where they're at in terms of what's the situation. And almost like a doctor, when it first comes in, you're saying, okay, what are your symptoms? So that's when I work with teams, individual athletes, individual business leaders. I really do a diagnosis first. Then based on the situation, I adapt my leadership style. And it also goes back to the maturity and immaturity of the followers, of the folks on that team. Okay, are they ready? Do they know you? Do you have a relationship with them to be able to say, hey, I need you to follow me during these tough times? Okay, so when there's an issue or concern, you say, okay, I trust you and I believe in you. But one of the biggest gifts and talents a leader can have is really knowing the situation, knowing your team, and adapting your leadership style based on the combination of those two things. So what you're also going to see, these are, only a sample of leadership theories that, folks have used and studied throughout history. And the idea of really finding one that fits for you, finding one that you really resonate with, and maybe a few. For me, it really, I've really found a great appreciation for those transformational theories, because I've seen how leadership can transform people. So if you look at Burns' transformational leadership theory, leaders transform their followers through their inspirational nature and charismatic personalities. Okay, that idea of your words and actions can influence people, and how important that is, and are you transforming people along the way? Another one you'll see a lot of times in businesses, the leader-member exchange theory. A team member, before you can get the trust and admiration and followership of those folks on your team, you have to prove your worth. Um, and then going all the way to the behavioral theories. These are more of the foundational pieces. The idea of it's interesting that two Big Ten schools competing on the leadership studies. Michigan saying, it's all about the employee. It's all about the people. Where Ohio State said, yes, that's important, but it's a combination of both people and results, not just one or the other. Going over to contingency theories, the idea of, Fiedler's theory, choosing the best leader for a given situation and change them when required. And you think about sometimes one leader may be great for one organization or business or team or school, whatever it is you're leading, maybe a great fit. Other times, not so much based on the situation. You look at, folks that may thrive in certain areas, maybe a leader of an elementary school, might be a great fit in that certain setting. But if you put them in charge of a police force with those same skills and attributes translate. So the idea of finding the right people for the right situation, almost a blending of that situational leadership. And then you look at the idea, which is a stark contrast to the Michigan studies, is the idea of a path goal theory. Okay, get things done no matter the obstacle. Okay, it's all about the result, all about the results. So one of the activities that I'd like you to take a look at is when you look at all these different theories, I'd love to see you find one or two that really resonate with you. Maybe one word that really stands out in the idea, whether it be transformational, whether it be people driven, whether it be results. If there's something that really resonates with you, I'd love to see how you are translating that into your daily routine. And please email me or tag me on Twitter. I know I'm using some people call it the boomer social media. But the idea of I want to see you put these into play, into your own life, and think about how you've practiced some of these same theories in your own life. And if you haven't, or haven't really thought about it in a deliberate way, let's start doing that. Because especially when you have the opportunity to, if you're working right now, sharing with your team some of these things. Hey, I'm not just doing this because I have a hunch. This is based on research. This is based on years of study around this, around leadership, both outcomes and processes. Okay, so send that to me. I'd love to hear it, and I want to hear how this is making an impact for you. And what word. For me, it's always been the idea of transformational. Okay, who's through my words, actions, energy, passion, who's improving because of what I'm doing. Okay, and I want to see how it's translating to your life. Okay, so contact me. Okay, our second slide. First, grab some more coffee. Our second area of focus is going to be the idea of teamwork. So what I'd like you to do, if you could, take some time to look at these two videos. Really powerful. Sean Akers' work has really transformed how we lead in organizations. It's actually transformed how I lead, whether it be the work that I do with my students, all the way to the businesses, organizations, school districts that I work with. Because what we're finding is that when people feel joy, happiness, positivity in their work, they realize how contagious that is. Okay, how powerful it is, and when you have that positive energy, what an impact you can have on others. The second thing is the idea of translating that to your team. Um, and I love this quote: "You don't inspire your teammates by showing them how amazing you are. You inspire them by showing them how amazing they are." That really goes back to that Covey quote, the idea of making others feel, see their worth and potential. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to read all these to you, but some of the things that resonate with me, some of these thoughts, we over me, what's best for the team. Great teams care more. One of the most important things that I've learned from the great mentors and leaders I've had in my own life is the idea of you have to build those relationships. People don't want to follow someone that they know they can't trust or doesn't care about them. Okay. Um, they don't care if you're a superstar. That's great. I mean, I've been a successful person, but I know my team values me because they know I care about them. Okay. It's all about the team. And sometimes you are the star and sometimes you're helping the star. So these are some rules that I'd love for you to take with you and take to heart. Even if you take 2 or 3, in terms of your interactions, whether it be in a student organization, whether it be in your work group, team, and in the, even family members at home. Okay. Your family, especially now, folks who are home a lot more often, your family, your connections, your friends, your social network, that's a team. And are you doing some of these same models, putting these into play? So here's a great thing from John Gordon, actually based out of Ponte Vedra, here locally. The idea of what can you do? What are some pledges? What are some action items that you can do? When I'm not performing well, stay positive. Okay. When you experience self-doubt, go think back a time when you did succeed. Any of you who have kids or folks in sports, the idea of, when you're faced with a stressful situation, think about when you have succeeded. Think about that, A, you got on that test, or, the time you hit that amazing putt to win a golf tournament, whatever it may be. When you think about, envision that and have that vision of when you did do well, okay, and you'll see this in the Sean Aker work, it'll actually help you do better now. Okay. One thing I'd love for you to do, and this is one of my favorite authors, myself, and one of my amazing doctoral students, who's now just an amazing leader in the field of HR and employee development. We did this. It's funny. I've had countless articles and presentations published in journals throughout the world. And the one pager that we did in one afternoon is being used by colleges of business, Buffalo, up in Buffalo, New York, all the way down to business schools in Tennessee. This one pager has been read more than any of my articles, book chapters, books, all those things combined. So if you click on that link, you'll be able to access the article. And it's a one pager. It's an easy read, and it's a quick way for you to realize some things that you could put into play right away, whether it be in your workforce, whether it be in a student group you're part of, any type of group activity. You can start doing this, even for yourself individually. Here are some best practices. What I'd like you to do after reading this is share an action item with a friend, family member, classmate, coworker. Okay, give me one action item you can take from this. Okay, and once again, tag me on Twitter. We'll send you a bonus prize from the TLI Leadership Institute if you share your impact from this one or your action item from this one article. Okay, sound good? Great article, easy read. All right, so why does happiness matter for your own success? It's not just unicorns and rainbows. Many people share with me like, "Oh, Dr. Olson, yeah, that doesn't mean much because it's all about hugging and kumbaya and all that." But what's really most important is the idea of outcome. Okay, but what if you take a look at some of the research that's coming out now that you actually increase your outcomes, you increase your performance when you are happier, when you are more productive, when you feel the value in the work that you're doing. Okay, optimism Okay, your job success is only 25% of it is based on your intelligence and your knowledge of the job. Okay, the rest of it is your optimism level, your support, your ability to handle stress. If you look at outcomes, more sales, okay, more likely to receive a promotion. You'll never see people in the workplace who are miserable getting promotions. Okay, when people say, "Oh, I can't wait for this week to be over," you keep hearing that over and over again. Guess what? You're not going to want to come to that job. What you'll see is that the people in life who are positive, who look for the good, who celebrate the positive things in their roles, and and look at the significance they're having, the impact they're having. Guess what? They'll do their job better. Okay, and for those folks looking at the bottom line, when you are more positive, when you feel that you are more significant, guess what? You show up to work more often. And when that happens, you're saving your company money, okay, in classes and schoolwork and academics. Okay, the more you attend, the more you participate, the better you're going to be at it. Attendance is one of the biggest predictors of workplace and academic success. And it's one of those things we often overlook. So for those business leaders out there, how often do you track attendance of your employees, for principals, for deans? Okay, that idea of attendance matters. It's huge. Okay, so here's one of the activities that I want you to take from this session. After watching that video from Sean Aker, this is one of my favorite ones to do. Each day you document 3 things you're grateful for. Quite often you think about all that you have to do, okay, all that is stressful, especially now. Gosh, I talk about it, what are we most thankful for? Every day, think about 3 gratitudes. Okay, Sean Aker gives you other ideas that you can start to look at, whether it be journaling, exercise matters, even if it's walking, meditation, random acts of kindness. One activity a day where you're doing something for someone else. Can release those happiness advantage, that energy, and really see some clear outcomes. All right, next slide and next area of focus. How do we lead now? Many students, and I hear this quite often, when I graduate, then I'll be a leader, or I've never been in a position of leadership. And these are college students, or even folks in the workplace. No, I'm not a leader. I'm just a good worker. I'm a worker bee. And for me, I challenge you on that. I think we're better than that in terms of, and I think your power, going back to that previous quote of really realizing your significance, is really paramount in terms of realizing every day you have the opportunity to be a leader. I love this quote from Drew Dudley, and you're going to watch his video, Everyday Leadership. You're also going to watch a video by Natalia Bannister, UNF doc student, who's the executive director of the Pace Center for Girls in Gainesville. And I love this quote: when you don't know what to do in a situation, ask yourself, what would the person I want to be do in this situation? Then do that. Quite often, we're riddled with guilt for doing things, like, oh, I shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. I should, exercise more, or get more rest, or, reach out to family more, whatever it may be. Think about, what would the person I want to be do, and do it. So I'm going to ask you to watch those 2 videos. Drew Dudley's TED Talk, viewed millions of times. Natalia, one of the most prolific leaders now in the Gainesville UF area. I actually started to work with her back in 2008, 2009, when she was leading the Boys and Girls Club in Gainesville, and we created a great mentoring partnership there. So the first thing I want you to do is this Drew Dudley activity. If you see, that was Drew when he came to UNF. And you talk about the power of persuasion. He came to UNF because I asked him. Okay, and this is going to be this relates to your activity later in the session around mentoring. So we asked Drew, hey, come down to UNF. We'd love to hear you speak. We use your TED Talk in all of our leadership classes. And he showed up, maybe because he was in Toronto and it was about 12 degrees up there at the time, and about 80 in Florida, but he did come down and had a great, profound impact here on campus. So when you think about this activity, what I'd love for you to do is think about, moving away from the traditional mindset of leadership as a title to now leadership as influence. And you think about who can you influence today, and who has been an influence in your life? Who's created a lollipop moment in your life? So one thing I'd love for you to do is text or call someone who's created a lollipop moment in your life, thanking them for their influence. Within the next week or two, create a lollipop moment for someone else, okay? And think about, how is this leadership for both of you? And many of you might be saying, what are you talking about, a lollipop moment? Watch the video and you'll understand. The next activity is the idea of leading with love. And it goes back to the idea of building relationships. And before you can lead anyone, you really have to know that you care about them. And this video is really powerful from Natalia. What I'd like you to do is think back to a time when you maybe didn't lead with love. Maybe you didn't have an interaction that you were at your absolute best. And think about how, after watching Natalia's video, you would do things differently. It was pretty powerful for me in terms of, my own interactions with my children, and the idea of, in my students, am I doing the absolute best for all of my students here at UNF? And the employees and the workforce and the teams that I work with, am I leading with love? Okay, so that idea of thinking about, would you change something now after watching this video? Okay, we are on to getting near the end of this presentation, but not so fast, because many of you have asked me, okay, so what do great leaders do? This is great. We see about the theories, to have positivity, we know to have great teamwork skills, okay? One of my favorite quotes is, true leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. Okay, who's better because of you? Okay, so let's talk about what great leaders do and what great leaders don't. And then I'm going to share with you one leadership, sets of practices. Dr. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the most paramount books that come out of this, and it's created a whole, training sessions and resources used by, almost every Fortune 500 company. I've worked with Covey 7 Habits now since 2008 after I went through training, and it's really been paramount to my growth. And over 25 million copies sold of that one book. So it's really powerful in terms of, how to lead. And here, it's almost like a guidebook, recipe book. Okay, but let's talk about what leaders do and don't. Okay, so many people call this, what leaders don't. The shadow side of leadership is one of our textbooks call it. Some folks, who use leadership, if leadership is influence, sometimes it may be abusing power. Okay, sometimes it may be hoarding privileges, mismanaging information, acting inconsistently, okay, betraying people, or failure to assume responsibilities. And all of us can probably think of that one or two people, maybe, hopefully not too many, folks who haven't been great leaders in your life. And sometimes we learn best from non-examples. Two examples and contrasting examples of, the shadow, what leaders do and don't. Down at the bottom, Captain Sully, the pilot who, in the face of grave danger, had the courage and bravery to land a plane in the middle of the Hudson River, saving countless lives. Under pressure, really keeping people calm and not taking, all the credit for it, giving credit to his team, and just, being thankful for the, the end result. To the ship captain, and I believe his Mediterranean cruise, that when the ship started going down and taking on water, the captain left. And saved himself, and he was actually tried in criminal court and found guilty. So the idea of when times are tough and times are challenging, leaders lead, and put others, the we before me mentality. So here are just a few, and this is why I say sample, ideas of what great leaders do. Leaders act and lead by example. They create a safe, positive, and collaborative culture, allowing voice and choice from the people on their team. They empower others and allow them to feel significant. It's not about you, it's about who's better because of you, how you get allowing them to feel value and significance. They build relationships and connect with the folks on their team, whatever type of team it may be, and have a mutually beneficial vision. It's not just what you want to accomplish, it's what do we want to accomplish? What does success look like for all of us? Okay, and the final thing is measure and reward performance with continuous progress monitoring and feedback, not just an end of the year evaluation, not just, once a year are going to make you feel significant. And back to Drew Dudley's thing, we make people feel significant on their birthdays, where all they have to do is not die for a year. The idea of doing this consistently. Who did something great today? Who are you recognizing for their performance? And do it continuously throughout the year. And I love this quote from Dr. Rick Rigsby. The idea of John Wooden, one of the most successful basketball coaches in history. He was known to sweep the gym floor. It wasn't his job, okay, but he really set the tone for the people around him, saying, this is something that I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the most menial tasks sometimes to show people that I'm on your team. Okay, it's for the greater good of the organization, of the team. Okay, one of the things you'll often see is Coach Driscoll. One of the first basketball games I saw of him when came to UNF from UF. It was the middle of the game. He's supposed to be coaching, and there was a spill on the floor, and he's down there, with a towel cleaning the floor. And those little things matter. And the idea that if, regardless of your position, are you willing to, get dirty and do what it takes for the sake of the group, and not just saying, hey, that's not my job. Well, if it leads to increased outcomes, or makes your team feel like you're part of the team, it is your job. Okay. So here's a great activity that I'd love for you to take a look at. Click on the link you'll see this is from Patrick Lencioni's group. His book, 3 Signs of a Miserable Job. Great author, great thought leader in terms of leadership. And this is one of the greatest ways I've been able to articulate to folks and leaders. And I don't care whether you're leading a group of video gamers. I don't care if you are even, leading a Fortune 500 company. These areas, people, it resonates with people. How do you make people feel significant? When you are leading others, people need to know 3 things: that they matter, that they're known and recognized, and that their performance can be measured. And these 3 things, if you think about being a CEO for the day, how would you make people feel, that they matter, and not just, hey, it's your birthday, and not just, once a year during a performance evaluation, but consistently throughout the year. How are you making people know that they're known? Do you know people's names? How many times have you ever worked for someone who didn't even know your name? How does that make you feel? And the third piece, and quite often, most importantly, okay, people need to know that they're good at something, that they're making progress, even if they're just starting out and they're not phenomenal at it, but they're making progress. So looking at ways that their performance can be measured. Okay, people want to see improvement. People want to say, yes, we did this. Our sales goal was this. Our achievement goal was this, and we did it. Keep going, get more. So take a look at this, and what I'd love for you to do, an activity you can do for this is, what would be one strategy that you would implement if you were a CEO for the day, of making sure your team members feel that they matter, that they're recognized, that they're known, that you take appreciation of them. I had one of my mentors share with me. He was talking, and this was just in conversation. He's like, "Oh yeah, that was Tommy. Tommy and his wife he was a former baseball player of mine when I coached baseball. They've been married for about 12 years, and his wife's birthday is coming up." And I couldn't get over the fact that not only did he had countless players that he had coached, but he took the time to remember when, one of his favorite players got, when their anniversary was, how many years they've been married, and knew his player's wife's birthday. And the idea that it took that, kid knew the kids' names, really took to heart all that was meaningful for that young man in his life. So, I have people that forget their own anniversary, never mind remembering someone else's. So, are people known? Are you taking a point to realize what matters to them? If they're into golf, if they're into video games, if they're into travel, make them feel significant by, recognizing that. What drives and motivates people is the fact that you care about them, that you know who they are, that they are known, they're recognized. Okay, and then final thing, how do you make sure that performance is measured? Because people want to feel like they're doing a good job. All right, so now we're going to get to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. And it's really broken down into 3 main areas. Many people think about leadership as others and teamwork and group work as leadership. But really, leadership starts with yourself. And it goes back to that original quote: before anyone can believe in you as a leader, you must first believe in yourself. So first thing, you have to manage yourself. So habits 1 through 3. Then, after doing that, after you have your priorities, after you have your vision, after you have your ability to lead a proactive, not reactive lifestyle, then you can lead others. Okay, it's almost like when that oxygen mask drops down from an airplane, they always tell you, you use this first for yourself. You can't help others if you are not able to lead yourself. You can't lead others until you can manage and lead yourself. Okay, so let's go through habit 1: be proactive. Okay, first thing, okay, I'm a responsible person. I choose my actions, attitudes, and moods. Okay, not blaming others for things that happen in your life. Live out your imagination, not your history. Okay, so what is it? The idea of human beings are responsible for your own behavior. Uh, we have the opportunity to take initiative and make things happen. And many of us, and quite often, we might have people in our own life who are reactive. Blame. In sports, blame the refs. In government, blame this politician. Or if only we had this would be better. If the weather's good, they feel good. If it's bad, they feel bad. They build their joy, happiness based on the external world. Really, where proactive people do the exact opposite. They carry their weather with them. Okay, they create their joy and happiness. Okay, so here's some reactive versus proactive language. And there's nothing I can do. That's just the way I am. I'm not good at math. Okay, I'm this. Okay, he makes me so mad. She makes me so mad. Okay, I have to go to class today. I can't. I must. If only. Okay, the idea of I had one of the most profound things I shared with many of my students and many of the groups I work with, especially those in Florida, is the idea of, oh, I have to go to class. And I'm like, you go to class and you live where people vacation. And the idea of many of our school programs have a, acceptance rate of, in some programs, for example, nursing, very small percentage of students actually get in. So rather than saying I have to go to class, the idea of I get to go to class. I have the opportunity, and the idea of, there's nothing you can do. You know, there's a solution to every problem. Help, go to the people that can help you find the problem, answer to the problem. So being proactive is really a foundation of all leadership, because if you think you can't do anything, then you won't be able to lead, and someone else will step up and take the initiative. And the idea of making your own weather. Even in tumultuous times, you can find joy and happiness in things. Habit two, begin with the end in mind. Okay. The idea of, what does success look like for you? A lot of people are just almost like treading water and saying, hey, whatever happens, happens, or no big deal. Just see what happens. Okay. I want you to be in charge. I want you to really have the mindset that success and your happiness and your achievements are based on you. But first, you have to have a vision of what that is. Begin with the end in mind. So take a look at this audio recording of Eric Thomas's, probably one of his most famous speeches that really catapulted his career. And you think about, how bad do you want success? And his mindset is, the idea of, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, okay, or walk this earth, okay, you'll be successful. And many of us just kind of wait for success to happen. The idea that I want you to change towards is like making success happen. All right, so what we're going to do right now is take a look at some of these activities, and I want you to use these as prompts, and maybe pick one a day, okay, one a week, to really take a look at and maybe have written down somewhere, and keep at the forefront of what you're trying to accomplish. What career do you dream about having? Who do you dream your life? What's your life going to be like? Look like? What college for younger students? Not hopefully not not my college students. You're not transferring out of UNF. Hopefully your dream school is UNF. What do you dream about owning? What fun activities do you dream about doing? Skydiving, with a white water rafting, painting a picture, whatever it may be. If anyone has seen my artwork, you know that some of us, we have to know our limitations, but find something. What's on your bucket list of things to do? And the idea of dreams without a plan are just a wish. Don't just say, yeah, I hope to, get my master's degree. What's your plan? Okay, what are your action steps to make it happen? Okay, don't just wish for it, make it so. And many of my students will hear me say it, hey, Dr. Olson, what about, have we thought about, can we try? And I'm like, make it so, make it happen for you. So here's a 30-day challenge I'd love for you to take with you. Goals are written down and you can see them every day. Okay, if you don't measure it, you cannot improve. Okay, daily, weekly, monthly, and revisit and repeat, almost like shampoo, rinse and repeat, revisit and repeat. You are working towards these things. Make sure you have a goal. See it, put post-its on your mirror in your room, have it on your background of your phone, something that you see it constantly. So it really becomes a question of when, not if. All right, habit three, in the last stage of that personal leadership, putting first things first. Okay, are you working towards your goals when you are spending your time throughout the day? Okay, and for you, what is most important? So when you think about how are you spending your time, the majority of your day, where are you spending your time? I love the new feature in many of the phones now, where it shows you how long you're online. The idea of are you spending 6, 7, 8 hours a day on the phone, on social media, and the idea of going back to your goals and dreams. I want to get this degree. I want to have this job. I want to do these things. But as Eric Thomas might say, is your grind, is your work ethic, are your habits as big as your dreams? Are they aligned with your dreams? So if you say, I want to be, a world-renowned artist, or I want to have this amount of money saved, or I want to do this fitness routine, okay? Are your habits mirroring those? And you look at someone like Warren Buffett, okay? reading for hours every morning. This is one of the world's wealthiest men. Um, and he's still trying to get better, still looking to improve. And you think about your priorities, are you saying, I want to spend time with family? And if you look at that picture down below, the idea of, is it aligned with that? Okay. Are you taking the moment to, to focus on what's most important? Or you inundating yourself with the mundane and things that are really detracting from your goals. Okay, so really, and rather than scheduling your priorities, really, prioritizing your schedule. The idea of my most important things go first and take priority. And the final thing, are you measuring? Okay, and the idea, do you matter? Okay, documenting and measuring the impact that you're having. I don't care if it's starting a new fitness routine. I don't care if it's looking at your GPA and your schoolwork or your work, impact. And for the organizations that I work with, not just, it's just a job. I'm just doing my job. No, you will be better at your job when you measure your impact. Okay, so that idea is, it has to be consistent, measure. I don't care if what you're doing is, sweeping floors to, if you're a heart surgeon or you're an Olympic athlete. Every day, are you working towards that? Every day, do you know you've gotten better at it? Okay, and document it, share it. Use social media to show, your work ethic. Use social media to show your impact. It's not bragging if it's true. No one cares about the food that you ate that you're posting on social media. No one does. What they care most about is, hey, that's a great person doing great things, and celebrating those around you, celebrating those that you're succeeding with. And most importantly, really taking time to celebrate you. You are your most important asset. Okay? Don't forget that. And the final thing, the mission statement, creating your own mission statement. Are you aligned and focusing on the big rocks in your life? And the big rocks, we're going to share with you a video later on, the idea of big rocks in your life. Rather than trying to just manage your time, really putting those most important things first, and then building all these other activities around it. Doing what you have to, what is most essential towards your eventual goals first. Then the other pieces come in. All right, now we're getting into the moving from private victory to public victory. The idea of thinking win-win, habit 4. Okay, so often many people think, well, either I get the job or they do, or I can, only one person can succeed. True leadership comes with, how do you build in ways for there to be a win-win opportunity? A lot of times that comes with mentorship, collegiality, collaborative workplaces, collaborative teams. The idea of success for all. One of the most powerful things you saw from the UNF men's basketball team this year is a team that everyone contributed. You had 5 seniors that not one person, went above and beyond. It was 5 people really working in unison. When one person went down, the other person stepped up. And it really comes down to leadership and the idea of we over me. Habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Quite often you see, people having conversations with others while still checking their phone, or really just listening to respond. I think one of the funniest and most telling, clips of the show The Office, there was a character that wasn't allowed to speak, and someone didn't realize that, and they walked in and started talking. And the person who wasn't allowed to speak kept nodding over and over again, and that other person who was doing all the talking, stepped back and said, "You are just the best listener. You are just, you're making me, feel so important right now." Because so often it's rare. I mean, it's such a rare attribute for people just to listen. and seek to understand then to be understood. And you think about how that may change so much of what we're seeing on the political front, and us versus them mentality, both locally, nationally, and globally. Really seeking to understand other people's viewpoint, and valuing it. And we don't have to agree all the time, but really seeking to understand what people are going through, and where they're getting their thoughts and ideas. And it's sometimes going to help us to become better leaders. Habit 6, synergize, and so much of that goes back to that teamwork section that we discussed earlier. Um, Really helps us, jointly discover the strength and power we have, not only in ourselves, but when we combine our strengths, talents, and resources with others. The idea of, combining and harnessing resources of a team, rather than just trying to do things individually. And the final thing, habit 7, sharpen the saw, is really taking time for you, in terms of physical, social, emotional, mental, spiritual. All of us have gone through times where we felt drained, where we felt we were at our, at a point where sometimes we're putting others ahead of ourselves. But what are you doing for yourself? What are you doing to take care of you, physically, mentally, socially, spiritually, whatever you need, whether it be walking the beach, doing yoga, reading a book for pleasure, really taking time for just you. So one of the things that I want you to take a look at is, how do you find balance, okay, while maintaining the high standards for your brand? Like, still, not saying I'm going to do yoga and meditate for the next 3 months without doing any work, but really building in, even if it's 5 minutes a day, doing something for you, 30 minutes, 30 minutes a day, once a week, whatever it is, building in that time to make sure that you're at your absolute best. If you're a star leader, artist, writer, athlete, you're not going to be at your best if you don't take care of yourself. And that will translate down to your employees, to your team members, to your classmates, whoever is in your organization. That matters because you set the example. You don't win a prize for having the most days consecutively worked without taking a day off. Actually shows that planned vacations, not call outs, not calling out and sick, planned vacations actually increase productivity. So the idea of taking time for you, whether it be even a staycation, which many of us are doing right now. So that idea of taking time for you so you can be your best version of yourself. And so that perfectly goes into the next segment, the idea of the law of the bamboo tree, and the idea of mentoring and supporting one another as you grow as a leader, both now and in the future. What's pretty cool about bamboo trees, is the idea that, when you plant the Chinese bamboo trees, first year you water it the entire year, take care of it, fertilize it, all those different things. Whole year goes by, nothing. Year 2, same thing. Year 3, same thing. Nothing. Okay, just soil. Okay, in that fourth and fifth years, many a times the bamboo trees will grow as much as 90 feet in 6 weeks. So you had 3, 4, almost sometimes 5 years of absolutely nothing. And the idea that you may not see it, but down below the surface, below the soil, roots are growing. The idea, it's growth is happening. You just don't see it, okay, until that exponential growth starts happening. Okay, so the improvement process, the growth process, and after you watch this video, you'll see really how it resonates to your everyday life. So many of us, if it doesn't work right away, or if you struggle in your first year in college, many people leave. In a workplace, athletics, whatever extracurricular activity, even, a new initiative that you're trying, real leadership change takes 2 to 3 years. That's why it's so frustrating in the school districts that I work with when they move principals after 2 years if they didn't see any change, or move CEOs in the Fortune 500 companies that I've worked with. Oh, that boss didn't move the dial quick enough. okay, after a year, and it does take time. So know that leadership does take time to really bring about positive and lasting change. Okay, so when it comes to watering the bamboo, and here's a hint: you are the bamboo. You don't change overnight. You don't become the best version of yourself through one class. It takes time, just like the years that it takes to water the bamboo and to see that growth. Okay, so what's one strategy that can really help you become the best version of yourself is really finding mentors. Okay, and as I call it, your own advisory board. But first, it starts with, what does success look like for you? Going back to habit two, what does success look like? What role do you want to play? What problems do you want to solve in society? What do you love doing? So that it's not a job. So it's something that you just say, hey, I would do this if you didn't pay me. And guess what? If you're interested in it, someone else is too, and money will come from something that you're passionate about. Okay, so find out what does success look like for you. The second thing is seek out those who are doing what you want to do. Okay, and there might be many folks. For my own son, he wants to go into sports media and maybe work for ESPN or be a sportscaster or something like that, or talk sports. So I got him a meeting with two guys who do this in Jacksonville for ESPN Radio, and had him do it. Just had him show up one day and said, hey, Brent, I'd love to have my son see what you do. And they actually gave him a chance. And it may be numerous roles. Okay. So for him, the other piece is he wants to be a coach as well. So, meeting with great coaches, Coach Driscoll at UNF, coaches in the community who are just, have done fantastic things. So go seek out, whether it be an attorney, a doctor, a lawyer, police officer, you go find someone who's really good at it, okay? And ask them, hey, I'd love to learn from you. Can I treat you for a cup of coffee, or can I send you a few emails once a month? And just ask them, hey, I'd love to learn from you. And the worst thing they can say is no. And you keep reaching out to numerous people. One of the things that, and I give a plug for the leadership minor, what you'll see is that within the leadership minor, you have a mentor. Okay, if you look down below, and sometimes that mentor might see something in you that you don't even see in yourself. If you look at Tanika Hughes down in that middle picture with Kayliana. Kayliana is one of my absolute favorite students who I have. She's part of the leadership minor, and it's funny that I asked her, she had a very outgoing personality, extrovert, just dynamic personality. And she's like, well, I'm just going to be a trainer. I'm going to I work at the fitness center now, and I think that's what I'll go and do. And I saw something in her. And it's funny that Tanika Hughes, who's on the news and, very dynamic personality, one of the most well-known media personalities in the area, she contacted me and she said, yeah, this Kayliana has something special and she should consider, along with going into a career in fitness, maybe something in terms of, media and, being on TV or radio or something like that, and really harnessing that personality that she has. And you look at these other mentors, Don Hutton, the gentleman in the picture on the right to the left, former CEO of Brooks Healthcare System. The picture on the right has Luis and Federico, who is a tennis player at UNF, being mentored by former CEO of 7 different companies. In the background of that picture, Bob Ganzak, CEO of Dale Carnegie Training here in Jacksonville, working with his mentor. So the idea of learn, find a mentor, learn from them, and it could be folks. Even if they say no, follow them on LinkedIn. Find out what they're reading, what they're posting about. So even if you aren't building a relationship with them directly, you can still learn from them. And finally, create your own advisory board. and I do leadership for a living. Like, this is what I study. I have my own advisory board, and it's not official, but it's a group of people in my life that I can reach out to and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Hey, I have this opportunity. What do you think? Hey, do you want to collaborate on this? So create a network of 3, 4, 5 people that will serve as your advocates, advisors, friends, different levels of connectivity, and the idea of people that you can go to and learn from. And the idea of know that your growth, your improvement doesn't happen overnight. It may take years, just like the bamboo plant. Okay, but one day it's going to just have that exponential growth, just like the bamboo tree. But you have to keep watering it. You have to keep taking care of yourself. You have to keep practicing these leadership habits. Okay, and I know the results will be powerful. So here's your homework. And I call it an infinity homework because it's probably, I really want you to do this probably till a day, even after you retire. Think about that. You're probably saying this is the hardest assignment anyone's ever given you, and no, it won't be graded. It'll actually be graded in the success you have in your life. So I'm going to steal a bunch of ideas from whether it be Drew Dudley, Sean Aker, Natalia, all the folks that we've had the opportunity to, and even my own mentor network. I want you to ask yourself 3 questions each day. Before you go to bed, how have I gotten better today? And don't think about big profound things. One thing, okay, it might be the idea of one activity that you've done that you've improved your understanding of something. You learned something new. You did something, whether it be exercise, whether it be reading a new article, whether it be, whatever it is, how have you gotten better today? The second thing, who or what is better today because of your words and actions? The idea of have you had a positive influence over someone? Said something kind, encouraged, empowered, helped, supported someone. Okay. And I include what? Maybe it's a process at work. Maybe it's a new way of learning. Maybe it's a new, something you improved in terms of the way you study. Something, the idea of what, maybe who or what is better today because of your words and actions. And guess what? Hey, folks, that's leadership. That's all leadership is. Okay. Number 2, if you've done that today, you're a leader. If you're going to do that tomorrow you'll be an even better leader. Okay. And then finally, okay, how have I been good to myself today? Okay. Think about ways to sharpen the saw, Covey's 7th habit. Think about ways to celebrate your success. Employers, the first thing they look at is your social media before any transcripts, before any resumes. Okay, not saying that your transcript and your GPA isn't important, but I want your GPA, as Drew Dudley would say, to be the least interesting thing about you. Okay, share those things on social media. Remember, it's not bragging if it's true. And celebrate your success, because you're gonna, you're your own product. Okay, celebrate it. Okay. Excellent job today, folks. I'm so glad you were able to be part of this. Feel free to contact me, reach out to me, and continue to lead and continue to influence others so that you are creating lollipop moments for other people and that you are becoming the best version of yourself. Thank you.